even the president of the United States has a schedule and has hundreds of people around him to make sure he stays on schedule. Guess what? He gets off schedule sometimes. And this is supposed to be the leader of the free world, and he gets off schedule sometimes.
Oh, so yeah. Joe taking a nap.
So everybody has their shortcomings, and you got to forgive yourself and move on, because like we said previously, time doesn't stop for anybody. It doesn't rewind for anybody. So the time you're spending whining is time that you could be doing something else.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Level Up with Larry and Leo, where we turn challenges into opportunities and dreams into reality. I'm Larry, and this is the co-host Leo.
What's up, everybody? I'm standing in the middle of this parking lot in the middle of Atlanta here, telling you that if you are enjoying our episodes, if you're finding value in our content, we have a special request for you today.
That's right, Leo. We pour our hearts into creating this podcast, and we share our entrepreneurial tips, strategies, and insights with you all, and we want to keep bringing the best content possible.
But we need your help! We need your help, man. If you haven't already hit the subscribe button and joined our community, do it now. By subscribing, you'll never miss an episode. You'll be the first to hear our latest stories and strategies.
Plus, subscribing helps us grow and reach more people just like you. It's a win-win. Your support means the world to us, and it motivates us to keep leveling up our game.
Don't forget, hit the notification bell too, all right? You're always going to be in the loop with the new episodes drop. We release new content every Thursday at noon Eastern.
So what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button now, and let's continue this journey together.
Thanks for all your support, everyone. We can't wait to see where this journey takes us next.
Until next time.
Peace.
Welcome back, everyone. You're tuning in to another episode of Level Up with Larry and Leo, where we transform challenges into opportunities and dreams into realities. I'm Larry, and as always, joined by the co-host of the show, the mastermind, Mr. Leo. And today we're discussing a critical aspect of business success, time management, and how to set your schedule up for success.
Oui.
Leo, it's great to have you here for another important conversation. How are you doing?
Doing wonderful. Man, this is a great topic, something I'm ready to get into, and to be transparent, something I'm working to get to the next level at as well.
It's a never-ending work in progress. Yeah. But I think it's important we kind of start this conversation off by sharing our opinions on why time management is so important in business. So let's start with your thoughts, like on a philosophical level. Why is time management so important when it comes to success in business?
Time is the only commodity that you don't know how much of it you have, and you can never make it up. It doesn't matter. All of us are given the same amount of time each day, and some of us don't make it through the day, right? But those who make it through one day get 24 hours to affect something in their life. And I hate it when you waste my money, but I abhor it when you waste my time. Like I would much prefer you say, hey man, give me $100 and you could go on, then have me sit somewhere for 2 hours that comes to nothing, and have me sit or drive across town and have nothing come of it. In the words of the 20th century philosopher, I'm reclaiming my time. That's my opinion on time management. Like that's the only thing that A, you don't know how much you have left. B, you and everybody else has the same amount as far as you know, until you get that tap on the shoulder and be like, hey man, your time's up. You got to check out. Right. But there's no way to make it up. Right. The times that I didn't get to spend with my family because I was out working or out showing properties or out viewing or out talking to contractors, I cannot make that time up. Right. So if someone is coming in to steal my time, to misuse my time, to abuse my time, I have to protect myself and create some safeguards to make sure, I'm going to allow a little bit of time for, some perspective, some things that, hey, may not go far, but I'm going to be very cautious with the use of my time because I know that I can't reclaim that and I can't make more of it.
Completely agree. Completely agree. For me, time management is about maximizing productivity and ensuring that every moment is used effectively to move the business forward. Everyone has the same amount of time. The billionaire and the homeless man, they both have the same amount of time. It's just about how you use your time and the way and using every tool available for you for complete maximization of the time that you have is just I'm fascinated by the idea of saving an hour or,
Yeah.
or saving a week or a month. Like that to me is way it's just way more important even than the amount of money I'm making for a particular transaction. Because I know that if an hour is saved or a week is saved or a month is saved, that same one transaction that I might have lost a little bit of money, I can make 4 or 5 times that because that gives me a chance to get more business in one area or something else. So I just think like if you really want to like scale, we talk about getting to 6 figures or even 7 figures. It's this idea of time management and managing your time is so important because that's what allows you to scale,
Yeah.
right? So that to me, I think this is like just so timely, no pun intended, that we talk about this and really try. My goal today is to really add value to the listener. Like, what are some practical things that you can do that we've done that some of the tips that we've tried, which again, it's always trial and error, right?
Yeah.
Everyone is, and that's the thing too. I think it's really important is we can like there's a lot of judgment, right, where some people might give you like this very strict approach to time management and you feel like, man, if I'm not doing that, if I'm not waking up at 4 a.m. or I'm not doing this or that somehow I'm not as effective. I have a coach, and I'm gonna talk about something that he does. He says he wakes up at 8 a.m. every morning.
Yeah.
He gets a full 8 hour, like he's like, I'm not waking up. Y'all can't. I'm not, because he knows his body, he knows his energy system, and he knows that there's multiple ways to get to the finish line. Like
Yeah.
you have to do what works for you.
So when you first start out and you're trading your time for dollars,
Right.
and as a solopreneur, that a lot of times is where you're at. Is
Yeah.
you're using your time, you're using sweat equity to gain a footprint, to gain market share, to develop a brand, to gain customers. If you're starting a church, to witness to people, to do Bible studies, to like everything that you're doing, you're leveraging your time for some kind of return. But as you go level up, you have to then begin to reclaim your time and buy your time by leveraging and paying someone or implementing a system that will cost you to give you a portion of your time back.
Exactly.
And the higher level you go, the more you'll have to do that. And you'll get to a point where you'll have what people call the 4-hour work week or whatever, because now you're no longer using your time for money. You're using money because you've grown your business to a place where you could use money to give you more time and move the business forward without you having to be in it. You don't have to run the business, but now you don't have to be in the business, but you just work on the business. And when we get to a point where we're working on the business, when we're thinking, 1,000-foot view strategies of what's next, that's when you'll have people that are working with you to get you to the next level. And that's when sometimes I feel guilty with the amount of time that I have. If I'm honest, like I'm like, man, dang, I really could be doing something. But I have to check myself and say, yeah, you are doing something. You're hanging out with your sons. You're going to tournaments. You're going out to dinner. You're hanging out with your wife. You guys are watching a movie together. You're going out to dinner. Like these things I was not able to do at one time because I had to leverage my time for resources.
Right.
But now that I have some resources, I could deploy the resources to regain my time.
I think that's an important thing to discuss, and I'm going to dive into a concept that I learned from a business coach that I currently have now. But I think what you just said was really important because when you first start off in business, it's like you're working 14, 16-hour days, right?
Yeah.
Monday through Sunday, just grinding, just trying to build the business up. But the thing that we have to understand as entrepreneurs, when you transition from being a W-2 employee to being an entrepreneur, is that it's not linear. Like the progress is not linear. So you think, man, you're not gonna be working that hard for your entire time in business. A lot of times you're gonna be putting a lot of work in at the front end, but that sort of compounds. And then eventually that work begins to build upon itself to where you now have an excess of resources, an excess of funds, or an excess of systems that you've kind of developed over time, where now you're like, you look at your calendar and you're like, whoa, I don't even know what I'm doing right now. I'm just, or you don't, when you get to that place, then you have to kind of recalibrate and say, okay, what's my next goal and what do I have to do to achieve it? Yeah. But you're not in that same sort of rat race, building it up from scratch, just trying to survive. You kind of get out of survival mode and then you dive into more strategic, and that's strategic and something that's scalable.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, I mean, and you have to approach those 16-hour days with a delusional mindset that I'm going to make it, and everything that I'm doing right now is going to be worth it. And you're going to be tired. You're going to be cranky. People are going to be upset that you're not around. Mm-hmm. People are going to be missing you. People are going to, you're going to lose some friendships, some relationships. For those who don't understand what it's going to take to get to the level that you want to get at, not everybody's going to be able to go up the mountain with you, but you have to be steadfast in your mindset that, yeah, this is for a reason. This is for a purpose. This is bigger than me. This is either for my legacy, for my future, for my family, or for me to get to a better place in life. So yeah, you're going to have to endure those times. And when that dissipates from having to spend 16-hour days to now 6 to 8 hour days, you have to be okay with saying, okay, I have to reallocate these hours to something that I want to improve at, like you said. Mm-hmm. Is it family? Is it my health? Because a lot of times when we're running, sometimes we don't make time to go to the gym. We don't make the right choices in terms of eating. We're pushing, especially if you're in sales and you're driving, like you're pulling up to, a drive-through and trying to pick between the lesser of evils. Or if you just had a bad run, you're just like, man, let me get some endorphins running. Let me get something sweet or salty or fatty. So yeah, I completely agree that those are some aspects of time management that in the beginning you may not feel like, man, all my time is going to this thing and I'm not seeing a lot of fruit from it, which is what we talked about last episode, a few episodes back, is that you have to be okay with not seeing the results and continuing to plant and sow into your dream, and until it pops. And sometimes it doesn't pop, but it gives you experience and it gives you knowledge that helps you on the next thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I could tell you the number of businesses that I started when I was a kid to when I was a young adult. I was doing everything from selling digital cameras. I was an eBayer. I was on Amazon. I did a bunch of stuff that taught me something. None of them made me six figures until I got into this real estate thing. But all of them taught me something that I now could use both as a real estate broker, a real estate investor, a business advisor, that I wouldn't have known if I didn't go through that time and gain that knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Everything really builds upon itself. And I think that having a clear purpose in a clear direction of where you want to go with your life and your business is really the foundation of this tool that I was taught. And that's what I want to kind of transition into a little bit, because I really want to add some value to the audience and see if we can give them something that they can use. So this is something that I learned from my personal mentor, and it's this tool called the Ideal Week. And what this is where you take time when you have some free time and you basically look at a full week calendar. You could look at a Google Maps calendar or something, and you look at an entire blank sheet, right? 168 hours available, right? Monday through Sunday. And just at least put blocks in for different things that you believe are going to be important for you if you're going to reach your goal. So this is based upon your goals, your purpose statement, like what it is that you feel like you're called to do in your business, what you want to accomplish. And you look at a week. A week's important because a month might be a little bit too long in order to do that, and a day may be a little bit too short. But a week is that sweet spot because you have 7 days, right? And 168 hours that you can really decide what it is that you want to accomplish. And then you say, okay, I'm going to devote this amount of time to my business. You can look at your schedule, all of the different things that you have going on, whether it's your family, whether it's your personal stuff, whether it's your work that you're currently doing, if you have a job, and you see where are there times in my schedule that I can devote towards pushing my business forward? What are times in my schedule that I can push towards going after my goal? And the thing about the Ideal Week is it's ideal, right? There are going to be times where things kind of get out of whack. You may have to compromise some of the things that you put on your schedule, but at least it gives your mind a vision of what the most productive week that you can have and the things that you know that you can do. And even if you get knocked off course, you know, maybe you have a meeting that went a little longer than you wanted it to be. Maybe there was an emergency with your child at school. Maybe there was, you know, something that happened that kind of threw you off that allowed for you to really maximize that time. But it gives you a track, because I think sometimes we're just kind of in a treadmill and we're just doing things for the sake of doing it, and there's no real strategic vision that we're trying to accomplish. And I think that's why having a vision for your week, right, that kind of says where you have where you know this is the block that I'm giving towards, you know, making calls, making sales. Maybe this is the time that I'm giving towards organizing my business. This is the time that I'm giving towards whatever it is that you need to do in order to accomplish your goal. So you really are reverse engineering. You have a goal, and then you're saying, okay, what does my week have to look like in order for me to reach that goal? What are your thoughts on that concept of an ideal week?
Yeah, it's something similar that I learned for when I started in the business is time blocking. So for sales, I would have time blocked from 8:30 to 11:30, and that was when I would make my outbound calls. So that means any client that calls me to follow up or to schedule an appointment, they would go to voicemail. And part of my voicemail would say, hey, this is when I answer calls, and this is when I will get back to you this afternoon. And I set that expectation, and it allowed me that time frame to really just call. And then I would have time blocked where I would be returning calls. And I would have time blocked where I would be going on showing appointments, where I would show homes either at 3 p.m. or 5 p.m. Now, like you said, it's not a hard and fast rule. Sometimes you have to make adjustments, but your adjustments shouldn't be adjusting just for the sake of adjusting. It's adjusting because maybe somebody has a separate issue with their work or something like that. Make adjustments where, like during the summer, I will show properties at 6 or 7 o'clock during the summer because that is our longest daylight period where, it's still daylight out at 8 o'clock. So time blocking is something that I used and found it to be very useful. Even if you got off track one day, right, you could get back on track the next day. The thing that I had to learn is not to beat myself up. Because you beating yourself up, that's taking up more time.
That's taking up more time, exactly. It's so unproductive.
Yeah.
Because you could get to this, and that's the thing that we have to understand when it comes to these types of things that we do, these strategies that we implement. They're meant to be tools for us to serve us in helping us get our goal, and they're not meant to be prisons, right? You're not in prison to your schedule. Your schedule is there to help you to get towards your goals. And we all fall short, right? We all fall short of the glory of God. We all make mistakes. We all have times when we're not feeling our best. Sometimes you may need to take a rest, right? Just even though you should be doing this, sometimes you are not in the mental space where you can actually do that effectively. And maybe it could be time where you need to adjust. But the idea of having these things in place are there for to serve as a track for you, that when you get off course, you just jump right back in and then you get back into the rhythm. Because when you build these rhythms and these habits, it's going to begin to compound, right? Where something that once was difficult for you, because the thing I think we don't understand about anything in business, whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's growing a business, leading a team, anything, these are skills that you have to learn. Yeah. Right? These are not just something that you just know out of just based off of, and these are not skills that they taught you in school.
Yeah. Unless you grew up in like a military family or a really regiment type family where they had like really solid scheduling, which is what maybe 1% of people operate that way and throughout life. I mean, even the president of the United States has a schedule and has hundreds of people around him to make sure he stays on schedule. Guess what? He gets off schedule sometimes. So and this is supposed to be the leader of the free world, and he gets off schedule sometimes.
Oh yeah, so Joe taking a nap.
So everybody has their shortcomings, and you got to forgive yourself and move on, because, like we said previously, time doesn't stop for anybody. It doesn't rewind for anybody. So the time you're spending whining is time that you could be doing something else.
And the thing here's the thing, I think, when it comes to time, what you're really doing when you're building time is you're developing the necessary skill that it's going to take in order for you to get to the next level. We just assume that as long as I just do this, that it's going to work. Let's say you're wanting to run an ad for an upcoming campaign or something that you're trying to sell, and you start and you get into Facebook and you get into Facebook Business Suite and you realize, I don't really know what I'm doing. And then you run the ad and you spend a couple $100 and you're like, man, this isn't really converting. And then you're like, man, Facebook ads must not work for me. No, they do work. You just suck.
Yeah. You got to know how to operate within that system. And every system has its own rules.
These are skills that you have to learn in business. Everything. Us doing this podcast, we have to learn how to do a podcast by doing it, and then studying and preparing and doing all of these things. This stuff doesn't just happen, but you have to give yourself time in order to. We underestimate the amount of preparation it takes to be good at something that's going to give you the income that you want. Like if you're wanting $1 million income, there is a certain skill that you need in your industry in order to do that. We just assume people just show up like, man, I just made $1 million. We don't realize how hard of a skill that they had to learn in order to do that.
Yeah.
It's not, and it's not necessarily, it's time, but it's also focus time. Like I know we see a lot about like the 10,000 hour rule, right? That was something that we learned from Outliers and Malcolm Gladwell. I heard something recently that he kind of recently, because you know what, I can't remember exactly when that book came out, but he actually said that with the tools that we have today, and the advancement of technology, that somebody can do that in a much shorter time because there's technology and there's other things that can really allow that to be shortened. So it's not simply just time for the sake of doing it, because somebody could say, yeah, I spent 10,000 hours on the piano, and you're just playing the same song every single time. Or you could be practicing basketball for 10,000 hours just doing a basic layup. Right? Like there has to be an advancement in what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to suck long enough to become good. You have to realize every single thing that you're going to do, you're going to suck at it when you first start. And you have to be okay with that and say, I'm going to continue doing this because I understand that in order for me to reach that financial goal, I have to learn this.
Yeah. You have to continue to be okay with what one book calls failing forward. One thing that I stress to my son and the team that I coach is, guys, we have to be okay with failing. Like failing will teach you a lot. So be okay with failing. Try the hard things in practice. Go 100% in practice. And guess what? If you go at a comfortable pace in practice and then you get in the game, the game's not going to allow you to go at your comfortable pace. You're going to get pressured. So the same in business. If you are operating from a standpoint where, I'll get to it when I get to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it how I want to do it. That's fine. But guess what? There's 10 other people that are going hard and that may not have as good a product as you have, but they're coming in front of potential buyers multiple times that those potential buyers got to say, man, they got to be good. I've been seeing this same ad. I've been hearing about this thing for the longest. And now they're gaining new customers by sheer grit, grind, and sweat equity because they're there over and over and over. And there's an aspect of that you have to respect, but being too conservative, which is something that I could be guilty of, being too conservative will hurt your ability to grow. You have to be okay with failing. And you have to be okay with being, there's another adage that says you don't have to be good to start, but you have to start to be good. Like just start out being terrible. And that's it. Yeah. Start out being terrible. And guess what? A lot of these things that we love, they're not the first iteration of that thing.
Right.
Uber is not the first iteration of ride shares. Right? If you drink Coca-Cola, they're not the first iteration of that soft drink. Right? And the same with computers, shoes, everything levels up over time, but somebody had to go out there with something that was terrible for somebody to say, oh man, I could make it better. Or somebody who did it said, hey, okay, I got some feedback. Now I can make that better. But yes, go out and suck.
I think a lot of it goes back to your personal purpose statement, your personal calling statement. That thing that really drives you, that you're willing to go through these various levels in order to get there, right? So really digging into like what it is that what your gifting is, your background, the thing that you're not, that you've, I feel like you have to have this realization, like you're called to do something, that you're called to bring something into the marketplace. You're called to bring something into, the world, because what we're talking about, it's going to be so easy to just say, to dismiss, the necessary things that you have to do, if you don't have something that you're like, no, I gotta get to this place and I'm willing to. And I think really searching that out and finding out, like, what exactly is it that I have to do? Because while we waste time, there's somebody out there that's not.
Yeah.
The time that you're licking your wounds, singing, crying, oh, woe is me, there is somebody out there that is putting in the work, and not just any work, the right type of work. And I think that's a huge part too. Like, what is, like, everything that you do with your time is not created equal.
Yeah.
Everything that you do with your time is not going to get you the same income or the same amount of production. So really figuring out that those things that you do with your
$5
time,
task, $2 task, $10 task, $20 task. You want to, once you have the $5 and $10 and the $20 to invest in your business, you want to outsource that so you can reclaim your time, so you can dedicate it to not just working in your business, but on your business, which is very difficult for people to conceptualize. And part of it is because part of the control is gone.
exactly.
Part of the control is gone. And when the control is gone, then if you're a control freak, which a lot of entrepreneurs fall in that space, you have to have checks and balances that allow you to go to sleep at night to know, okay, this person has a list of deliverables and they have a time frame. And the time frame that they have to deliver it is well in advance of the time frame that I need it.
Yeah.
So if I need it by Thursday, I'm not going to put the deadline Thursday. I'll put the deadline Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you fall short on Tuesday, you're not going to hurt me, because I'm going to find a way for you to push you so you can get it to me on Wednesday so I could meet my deadline of Thursday.
Exactly.
But as part of, managing people and, setting the standard that, hey, I said Tuesday, it has to be in by Tuesday. If it's not in by Tuesday, there's some consequences that come along with that, because that hurts your business, because your customers, whoever it is that you're serving, are expecting something from you. And if you don't deliver it at the time that they expect it, that will set an expectation that you're not reliable. So yeah, those are a couple of things that I learned in outsourcing is, okay, let me outsource these tasks that are $10 an hour, $20 an hour task. And then how do I make sure that because I'm not doing it, that it still gets done in a timely manner? All right, let me set the deliverable date with a day or two between when I actually need it.
So we talked about time management, like, as a concept. Let's go into some of the tools that we might use in order to be more effective with your time. Personally, I have a few tools that I love. My sort of hub is the Google Workspace. So I have my Google Calendar that I have up all the time on my computer, on my desktop, that I'm constantly checking. I'm constantly revising that. I'm able to, if my time includes a calendar with another individual. I email them that time like, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But I also use a project management called Asana, which
I know you're an Asana evangelist out here.
It is a game changer. And in fact, I'm meeting with one of their representatives in a couple of weeks to see how I can better utilize.
They didn't sponsor the pod. Okay, they just getting free love. All right, but when we go up to the next level, ain't gonna be no more free love now, Asana. Take all you can get right now.
And also, and I work in an agency, so I actually have team members, and I'll talk a little bit about how I'm able to utilize my team in order to be even more productive. We use Slack in terms of the way we communicate to each other. So we're able to put different projects into different channels, streamline it, because I know things can get buried in email, in WhatsApp, and all of these other things. So using something like Slack, and a lot of these tools, they're not very expensive, but they're very effective in terms of helping you to stay on track with what it is that you're doing. So those are some things that I would definitely suggest if you're going into business to look into to sort of help you in terms of managing your time. Do you have any tools you think?
Well, the main tool I use is Google Calendar. I use it both for, it syncs to my wife's phone, so she knows what my schedule is on my schedule. And she could drop stuff in my schedule if she needs to. Like, hey, man, I noticed you had this opening right here. Mm-hmm. You know, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, which she rarely does, but she has the ability to do that. The same thing with contractors. Contractors, we have dates to start and complete portions of the project. All that is on Google Calendar. I put everything in my Google Calendar, and the construction manager or the project manager, they have other tools that they use. I don't fool with that because I'm trying not to micromanage. I just go in and say, okay, are we on task to finish the task that we were assigned to finish in this time? And once it's finished, we walk it to make sure it's up to standard. So when I call for there's something called draws when you're doing rehab, where you'll do the work, you'll pay to do the work, and then you'll call for the lender to come and inspect the work, and then they'll pay you back for the money that you paid to do the work. So so that's how I coordinate the things that go on in my business. Also with my agents in the agency, they could request a meeting on Google Calendar through Workspace because they have their own emails, company emails, all that stuff, which is really, really convenient, really affordable. I think it's like $40 or $50. It's less than $100 a year for them to have professional emails and to be in a ecosystem that is designed for us and we could control it.
I think when it comes to tools, again, they don't have to be sexy. Like, you don't have to have 10,000 tools to manage your stuff. If you just have a Google Calendar, which is through Google Workspace. So I'm not talking about I love dragons at gmail.com. Like, you need a professional Google account, which is pretty inexpensive, but you get a lot of tools. You're able to have Google Docs, Google Sheets. You can have Google Tasks. There's so many different tools that you're able to use just with that.
And you can meet on Google Meets. Like, everything you need is in there.
And two, if you're doing business and I see somebody with a Gmail account that I'm doing business with, it just looks, I'm just kind of like, just take it from us. Like, that's not a great representation for yourself. Like, if you're going to invest in anything, no one's saying, get all these fancy tools unless and again, it really depends upon your industry. Every industry has their own specific things that they use. So whatever works for you. But the main thing is, don't be trapped by these tools. They're meant to serve you, not be a prison for you. Right? So you don't have to get a whole bunch of fancy stuff. Just whatever is going to help you stay on track. That's what you need. So,
and budget your expenses. Like, if you're going to get a new thing, make sure you could afford that thing for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't just grab it and 2 months later drop it. Like, that's not, especially if you have a team like that, that's not cool. Like,
Yeah.
give everything at least 3 to 6 months of trial and see how to implement it. And then you could make a decision. No, this is not the right space for us. This is not the right tool for us. Let's look for something else. But to try to figure it out in the 30-day trial, I ain't recommending that.
So we talked about time. We talked about tools. Let's talk about teams, right? Because this is what really scales. But I think when you're going into this level, you have to really want to invest in learning how to lead, right? Leadership development.
Yeah.
And this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't know about leading. They're really good at doing, but not as great at leading.
Yeah.
And in order for you to scale your time, you have to learn how to lead other people. And I can tell you that right now, currently in my marketing agency, I have 5 subcontractors that I work with that help me with some of my projects. Literally, I usually start my day by sending them their tasks. So, and these are like full-time workers, right? That are devoted to working with my agency. So in 1 hour of work, in 1 hour of just sending out tasks for the various clients that we work with, I'm literally getting there. If you combine all of their hours, that's 40 hours of work that pretty much that I'm doing in just that 1 hour of sending them their tasks. But it took time to get to that place because I had to learn how to maximize their time. I had to learn what their skills were, what they were able to do, what they weren't able to do. And I had to learn so many different things about my team in order for me to get to the point where now I could spend an hour just sending them tasks. And then I'm able to basically work through them. In a lot of cases, after that hour is done, if I wanted to, I could stop working for the rest of that day because I'm literally just working through them. Like they know what they're supposed to do. And all I would have to do is check in and sometimes just receive from them and send it to a client. But it takes time in order to get to that place and ensuring that you have the right tools. So at one point I was communicating to all of them through WhatsApp. Right. So like we just got one long WhatsApp stream and emails where we're constantly going back to email, WhatsApp. And it was really unorganized. And that's when we transitioned to Slack. So there are times when you have to constantly
try it, fail, and find something better.
And doing all of that. But you have to be able to like also find people with certain skill sets. So understanding, like being able to test out different what they're able to do, learn what their usual turnaround time. There's a lot to managing a team. But if you learn how to do that, you're going to be able to accomplish so much more. And when you go into these sales conversations, you're going to have a lot more confidence because one, you have a portfolio that you can turn around that your team has done. And also, you know that you have people who are capable of giving them the results that they're looking for.
Yeah.
So that's one of the main blessings. And the reason I would not be able to scale to the point where my agency is at now if I didn't have a team. There's no way.
When you went to add a member to your team, what was your first addition and how did you decide that this was the person? What were some things that you went through to determine, hey, this is the type of person? And, some of your mistakes, if there were any.
Oh my gosh. I have a bunch of train wrecks in terms of mistakes. One thing that I did, and I work with a lot of people who are overseas, so I don't work like directly in America, just because, again, you could find better labor and it's way less expensive if you go overseas. But learning, so there's places you can go like Upwork, and you can go to onlinejobs.ph and other places to find really, really quality people who can help you with your work. But I can say a few things that I learned in terms of like kind of developing the team is when I just go out and try to find somebody on my own, usually they didn't work out very well. The people who stuck and actually did a really good job were those that were referrals from other people.
Okay.
So
So
that
who was the person that you found that gave you the good referrals? Who was
so
your
I had
first good hire?
so I
And how
had
did that happen?
a rock star web designer and like just a VA in general. She came on, I think, really early into my agency's beginnings, probably a year in. I was able to find her. And the thing that was interesting about this hire was her background was not in web design. She was just more of a general VA, but she had a science background. So she was very smart. So I think a lot of times finding someone, one, that really believed in the vision. So like I do a lot of work for churches. So she had a heavy faith background. So she really connected with the vision, which I think was really important. So she saw it as an extension to ministry as opposed to simply just another job.
Okay.
So it allowed, but she was also very teachable. And I think that that's something that is very important. Like, just because maybe they don't have that background, a lot of times they're going to figure it out just because they're able to learn and they're able to learn fast. So she ended up bringing on a video and graphic designer who is amazing. Like, she is a rock star, but it was a referral that she made. So what I do now, as opposed to like going on Upwork or going on online jobs.ph, is I literally only work through my current team. So I say, hey, we need this type of person. Can you help me find them? Do you know anybody that you've worked with or something? Because especially if they're really good at what they do, they understand the level of skill that is needed in order to do the job. So they're able to find and recruit and then bring them in. And then a lot of times I say, hey, I'm going to give you the work and then you just delegate whatever you can't do in this particular time frame. So I actually have them manage their teammates. So it's a lot less on me. I actually kind of give it to them. But those are the things I've learned is it's a lot easier to just find people that your team already knows, especially if you find a good hire, like just they know who works like them.
Birds of a
So
feather.
exactly. So working through them, those things have really just skyrocketed in terms of just finding the right people and then building the right culture, because too they're going to have to work together on a lot of things. So I've had, virtual assistants who, don't get along with each other and they don't like each other.
Yeah, synergy is definitely important.
So that, like, having those, because there's going to be times where one person, they have something personal come up and they can't finish a particular task. They got to know that they have teammates that can help them if that happens.
Yeah.
So being able to have that synergy is going to be really important if you want to scale. So those are the things that I've kind of learned.
That's a real blessing. My journey in hiring virtual has been disastrous.
Most
And
people.
I have stopped. I've spent thousands on virtual assistants or in some way or another. Everything from fielding calls to making outbound calls. And I still get calls at least once a week of someone calling, offering their VA or offering their services. And I just wasn't fortunate enough to find someone who took ownership. And I'll put it on myself as well, because at that time I was really working in my business a lot more than I am now.
Yeah.
So I only had a few hours to train you. Okay, this is what I need. These are the scripts, and then let you run with it, because you're coming to me telling me you already have experience.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't the case, because the conversions, if you can't convert at a 2% conversion rate, then you need more experience. So so that has been my journey in hiring virtual assistants overseas. What I did have success in is hiring a transaction coordinator, and God bless her. From here to the kingdom come, like, once something hits, and I've mandated all my agents use her and her team for our transactions, because she makes sure that everything is up to the standard that it needs to be for compliance purposes. All the paperwork is in, all the paperwork is signed. So once the property is under contract, she takes it over. She sends out updates about the timelines, all that good stuff. So yeah, she's been wonderful, and I've seen her level up in her business, where she was the one that I was emailing and texting and calling, to now she has a team of, I think, 3 or 4 girls who handle all her files, and she just manages them. And I'm like, that is amazing. That's wonderful to watch both of our businesses grow. And so that was the hire that brought me the most success, because now I didn't have to track paperwork anymore.
Right.
I could delegate that to somebody else that I knew took pride in doing that, and I could, service my customers better. And if I'm in a meeting or I'm in a showing and one of my customers calls about something, I have one of my quick reply text messages is to reach out to her and her team to say, hey, if this can't wait or you need an answer, feel free to reach out to her. And they would do that, and she'd be able to tell them, okay, this is where things stand, give them a quick overview of where things are in the transaction. And then I could double back later on in the day or whenever I'm free on a drive to somewhere else, just to touch base and say, hey, did you get the answer from her? And most of the time it's yes, we're good. And then I'd reiterate whatever they needed. So that was a blessing of a hire. And she was local. She wasn't overseas, just because of the industry that I'm in. She's licensed. So there's a lot of red tape that I didn't have to go over, but that was the best blessing. And she got paid on a per transaction basis.
Right.
And that's why I was able to pay her on a per transaction basis, because she was licensed. And it just made my transactions a lot smoother, and my client experience was a lot better.
The one good hire can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in your business. Yeah. Like I could say that the designer that my first VA recommended, her work was so good, it allowed me to bring on so many new clients because of the portfolio we've been able to develop.
Yeah.
So when you find that, like, you find the right talent and you steward that relationship properly, it could be the difference between just, barely making it to really, scaling in the high 6 figures. So it's worth the time in finding it. And I think even failing, like I've had VAs even up till this week that haven't worked out, right? They're constantly, this one particular person is constantly reaching out to me. Hey, I had to let her go like a couple weeks ago, and she's constantly letting me like, hey, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. I hope everything's good. I'm like, listen, I had to tell her yesterday. I'm like, listen, don't keep messaging me. Like, I already know what you're capable of doing.
It's not me, it's you.
So if I see something that comes that I really feel like you'd be a good fit for, then I'll let you know. But it's not going to work just because you're constantly contacting me. And like there's a difference between people who are just looking for a paycheck and actually are capable of doing what it is that you're needing, what's necessary. Yeah. And I think finding those people, stewarding those relationships well, finding the right system to function is what's going to allow those things to work. This was a good episode, man. We talked about time management. We talked about tools. We talked about teams. Any last thoughts before we wrap it up?
Hey, time is your most precious commodity. Protect it at all costs.
Couldn't say it better myself. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Remember, no matter where you are on your journey, there's always opportunities to learn, grow, and level up. We want to thank today's sponsors. Next Level Media Marketing, my agency, Curb and Key Realty, his Leo's real estate company, for their support in making this episode happen. Our business allows us to do this episode. We thank them so much for their kindness.
Our clients, man, appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks again for tuning in, everyone. Remember, no matter where you are in your journey, there's always opportunities to learn, grow, and level up. Until next time.
Peace.
You see how sweet this is?
But you know what's really sweet?
You subscribing.
Subscribe now.
Peace.